1966. Gary, Indiana still mirrors on the horizon. Joseph Jackson, still worker, disciplinarian and relentless dreamer, is watching his five sons from across the room. He doesn't see children, he sees talent, he sees money. Joseph doesn't ask his son to practice music, he's commanded. Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and then the youngest, a small, with-eyed boy named Michael. From the very first note, that boy opened his mouth to sing, everything in the room changed. Even Joseph goes quick. Catherine Jackson, the head of family, sees something else in her youngest son, not just talent, something rough, something fragile, something that needs protection. But protection is not Joseph's language. His language is the bell, the bug, the rehearsal that runs until midnight. The demand that they be perfect, because nothing less will get them out of Gary. Month after month, the boys rehearse in the living room, talent shows, local gigs, state fairs, little by little. Works begin to spread. There is something extraordinary happening inside the small house of Jackson Street. And the extraordinary has a name, the Jackson 5. In 1969, the Jackson 5 auditioned for Motown Records, the most powerful black-owned music label in the world. Berry Gordy played here with cool authority by Lauren Ted. Watch young Michael command the stage. He leaned over to Susan D. Pass and says what everyone is already thinking. Motown signed them almost immediately, the hits being pouring out. The album topped the charts. Concert venues sell out from coast to coast. The Jackson 5 become superstar. And within 2 years, the family traded their garage house in Gary, Indiana, for a sprawling mansion in Encino, California. But as the mansion gets bigger, the cake does too. Because Berry Gordy sees what Joseph is too proud to admit, Michael is bigger than the group. Michael has the kind of talent that only comes around once in a generation, if that. By 1978, Michael Jackson is a grown man, but he is still living inside his father's grip. He signed with Epic Records to record his first solo adult album, working alongside legendary producer Quincy Jones. Played with Effortless Cool by Kendrick Sampson. The two men connect on a creative level that Michael has never experienced before. Quincy doesn't just hear music, he hears visions. The result is Off the Wall, a landmark album, sophisticated and joyful, that announces Michael Jackson as serious solo force. But even as the world celebrates, Joseph holds the last stage. Joseph still controls the bookings, he still controls the money, he still controls the narrative, and he refuses to let Michael's solo success take precedence over the family brand. So Michael is pulled back into the road, forced to tour with his brother on the Destiny World Tour, playing the role of team player when every instinct he has screaming to go his own way. Something else is happening to Michael during this time? Something critical, something deeply personal. He is developing vertigo, a condition causing patchy loss of skin pigmentation. He noticed it first in small patch on his hands, his face. Insecurity takes root, and Joseph, as he always does, finds the worst and persists on it. One offhand remark about Michael's nose, who wished to flat, is all it takes. Michael could use a rhinoplasty. He first knows surgery to make it smaller, sharper. He tells himself it's just a small change. He tells himself it will help, but every mirror will tell a different story from here on out. The breaking point comes in 1981. After one agreement too many with Joseph, a man who has monetized his own son's childhood and called it love, Michael makes a decision. He turned to his bodyguard and one true friend, Bill Bray, who has been watching all of this unfold for years. Bill gave him the advice he's always needed. Michael hired John Branca and his attorney, and in one of the most symbolically powerful moments of the film, Branca doesn't arrange a meeting. He doesn't schedule a sit-down. He sends Joseph Jackson a fax. Free from Joseph's control for the first time in his life, Michael threw himself into the creating an album that will change music forever. He visits children's hospital, watching how kids move and respond to rhythm, absorbing life in a way he's never caused during the controlled jaws of his childhood. He experiments with sounds, image with the idea that a music video can be a short film. Then one night, he's watching the news. A report from the Chris Bloods gang were in Los Angeles. He watches rival gang members on screen and has an idea, so Audacious is almost absurd. For the built-in videos, Michael personally brings in members of both gangs to appear in the shot, not as actors as himself. He genuinely believes that music could be what politicians could not. And then come Thriller. Thriller doesn't just break records, it rewrites what records mean. It's become the best-selling album of all time. It doesn't leave the charts for 2 years. The music videos, especially the 14-minute Thriller short film The Race by John Landis, become cultural event unlike anything the world has seen. But my cause is not done. On May 60, 1983, Michael Jackson performs Billie Jean at the Motown 25 Yesterday, Today and Forever television special. He does something in the middle of the song that nobody in that audience has ever seen before. He glides backwards, impossible smooth, like gravity doesn't apply to him. The moonwalk enters history. The phones at Motown ring off the hook. CBS record get loaded with calls. Michael Jackson is no longer just a pop star. He is a phenomenon. But there is a wall standing between Michael's music videos and the millions of TV sets they need to reach. MTV, the Young Carbon Network, launched in 1981, has been playing our most exclusive wild rock artist Michael's music video, groundbreaking cinematic, essential are being rejected. The unspoken reason is worse to everyone in the room. Michael and Branca go to Yetnikov. They need him to put Rizzo on the network. Yetnikov listens and then in a mood that will after music history, he picks up the phones and delivers an ultimatum to MTV exclusive. MTV agrees, the floodgates open. And Michael Jackson doesn't just enter MTV, he redefines it. Music television will never be the same. While Michael is on top of the world, Joseph is making moves of his own. Don King, the notorious boxing promoter, played here by Dion Cole, as a man whose charm barely conceals his menace, comes to Joseph with a deal. PepsiCo went to sponsor a Jackson reunion tour. The money is enormous, but there's a condition. Michael has to be part of it. Michael doesn't want to do it. He fought too hard for his independence, but the family pursues the wish of five brothers. His mother, the name Jackson, pulls him back in. He agrees. On January 27, 1984, while filming a Pepsi commercial at the Shine Auditorium in Los Angeles, a spark from the pyrotechnics ignites Michael's hair. He doesn't realize it at first. He keeps moving, he keeps performing, and then the flames reach his scalp. Michael so first said the creep burned to his scalp and never damaged. He is rushed to the hospital in agony. The world watched the footage of the evening news horrified. John Branca feels sued against PepsiCo. The statement is substantial, and Michael directs every cent of it to the burn center at Southern California Hospital that treats him every dollar. That's who he is beneath our spectacle. After recovering, Michael fulfilled his commitment. He joined his brother for the Victory Tour, the Jackson Reunion Tour. Night after night, they performed together as they held St. Charles, the same formation, the same harmonies, but something is different now, and everyone can feel it. At the final show in front of tens of thousands of fans, Michael Jackson looks out at the crowd and then quickly, clearly, he speaks. This is the last time the Jacksons will ever perform together. The arena goes silent for just a moment. Backstage, Joseph tried to speak to him. Michael would not. There's no dramatic explosion, no final confrontation, just Michael walking away, calm, final, freeze. He has closed the door on his childhood, on the stage where everything began, and now for the first time in his life, there is only one name on the marquee: Michael Jackson. 1988 Bad World Tour, and for his landmark UK performance, he has chosen Wembley Stadium. The air vibrates with anticipation. He doesn't walk onto that stage. He arrives, the boy from Gary, Indiana, the one who has struck when he misses a step, who cries in the back of a tour van. who watches his childhood disappear into his father's ledger books. That boy is gone. What stands on the Wembley stage is something the world has never seen before and will never see again. He danced, he sought, he gave everything the way he has always given everything, but this time it belonged to him. No Joseph at the side of the stage, no family name to protect, no contract forced by a father with a bell and a trim. Just my call, just music, just the world watching in every.